to get this money. That means a bad definition for black farmers and other farmers of color.
Also, federal prosecutors are struggling to catch up on pandemic fraud, billions of dollars in aid that ended up in the hands of swindlers. These stories and DJ Kiana Faircloth shares a few of her favorite new releases in jazz, from Lauren Henderson and Samara Joy to this one from Snarky Puppy. Coming up here and now.
The news is first.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Congresswoman Liz Cheney's not ruling out a run for president in 2024 after her primary loss in Wyoming yesterday. NPR's Deirdre Walsh reports Cheney says she will double down on her mission to block former President Donald Trump from holding office again.
You know, not too long ago, Cheney was considered to be on a path to potentially become the first female Republican Speaker of the House. But that all changed with her very public break with Trump. She said last night no public office was worth backing his attacks on democracy.
Deirdre Walsh reporting. Another of Trump's Republican critics in Congress, Senator Lisa Murkowski, has survived her primary in Alaska. The state held a nonpartisan contest. Murkowski drew the most votes, but her closest rival, Kelly Tshibaka, also advances since she was among the top 4 vote getters and she was endorsed by Trump as well. Separately, Alaska held a special election to serve the remainder of late Representative Don Young's term, which ends early next year. Young died in March. The result of that contest is not expected for 2 weeks, but 3 candidates in that race, Democrat Mary Peltola, Republican Nick Begich, and Trump-backed former Governor Sarah Palin, will face each other in November's general election that determines who serves a 2-year term in that state's sole House seat. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is traveling to Ukraine tomorrow to talk about the volatile situation at a Ukrainian nuclear power plant. It's occupied by Russian forces. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports from Kyiv.
Guterres is set to meet with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station, which Russian troops have occupied since March. They have recently been firing artillery from territory around the plant. Those strikes are hitting neighboring towns like Nikopol. Mayor Oleksandr Sayuk says residents are terrorized by the shelling and also by the fear that artillery could misfire and hit a reactor, releasing radiation. Guterres will also travel to Odessa to check ships carrying Ukrainian grain. Ukraine reopened its ports as part of a safe passage deal brokered by the UN. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
The state attorney from Tampa suing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for removing him from office. More from NPR's Greg Allen.
Governor DeSantis said he removed Hillsborough County State Attorney Andrew Warren from office because of statements he signed pledging not to prosecute people for violating abortion restrictions or a law prohibiting gender-affirming care for minors. He's not taking any action on those issues, though, and his office had no cases pending. Warren, who was twice elected state attorney, says DeSantis violated his right to freedom of speech and overturned an election.
NPR's Greg Allen reporting. At last, on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 61 points. You're listening to NPR.
This is WHYY News in Philadelphia. Good afternoon, I'm Priyanka Tiwari. The Attorney General of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, District of Columbia, Utah, Oregon, and Washington are suing a Maryland lender who they say deceived customers by tacking on insurance coverage. The courts didn't ask for the insurance or even know about it. The lawsuit filed Tuesday alleges Mariner Finance pressured its sales force to activate the contract coverage. The suit seeks restitution for consumers as well as civil penalties and the repayment of profits, among other consequences. Mariner's CEO disputed the suit, saying the company documentation provided to investigators shows that its products were legal and important for consumers. New Jersey residents are still demanding answers after a tanker truck leaked fumes that smell like rotten eggs. WHYY's Corey Sharber has more.
Dozens gathered at the East Greenwich Municipal Building last night for a town hall featuring representatives from emergency management, first responders, and Transcam USA, the company who owns the tanker that was leaking fumes from an East Greenwich truck stop. Our news partner, 6ABC, reports officials got more than 8,200 911 calls after the truck was discovered. The vapor leaking from it was identified as Lubrizol 1389, a fuel additive that produced hydrogen sulfide and mercaptans. Residents investigation. East Greenwich resident Eileen Collins says that she was worried for her and her family's safety.
It is. Thank you. That's not a thing. I ran her 5 children. I
The danger truck is still in Greenwich Township, but it's not emitting any vapor. But officials say it's not yet safe to move the vehicle. An investigation into the incident is ongoing. Transcam USA team soon moved its resident into Texas District Court.
Other contributors include geographic expeditions, trips with Matt to more than 80 worldwide destinations, including safaris, cruises, and training zones. MattGeoExpeditions.com/explore.
From NPR and WBUR, I'm Celeste.
And I'm Scott Tong. This is Hearing Now. President Biden's signature on the Inflation Reduction Act yesterday brings new money to address climate change and for affordable drugs for seniors. There is also financial help for farmers, and that is what many had hoped for. Last year, the new law provided $4 billion specifically for black farmers for debt relief. Historically, it's found that black farmers face discrimination in agriculture. They were denied funding, and they lost their farm exposure. But that money is not there. So, the new law provides $5 billion to farmers who face discrimination and financial distress. But it is no longer specifically for farmers of color. Let's talk about this with John Boyd Jr. Virginia, National Black Farmers Association. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. debt relief for Eve. And when I settled my case back in 1997, former Secretary of Agriculture Dan Glickman instructed my local county office to provide me with debt relief. And they still didn't do it. And that's why I went on a 30-year campaign. And for people that are listening to this, this isn't something new that we've been asking for. We've been trying to get debt relief for 30 years. And while I was asking for it, large-scale white farmers were getting all of the monies. This is a bad deal for America's black farmers.
And finally, John Boyd, let's say that debt relief will come, even if it's less. Help us just understand, for farmers like you in Southern Virginia, what will debt relief mean?
Well, we have farmers right now that are facing farm foreclosure. And I've asked this administration, and Senator Chuck Schumer said on the national radio show yesterday that he was going to work with John Boyd to get the farm moratorium in place so that we wouldn't lose any more land while USDA is trying to put this process in place. But if we can get those monies to black farmers, it would mean that some get to keep their land. And that's the most important thing for us. We have farmers calling in right now talking about committing suicide if they can't get this debt relief. This is a real issue that affects all farmers in this country, but it affects black farmers worse.
Yeah, and an issue that, as you and your group have said, goes back to historic long-term discrimination by the banking system. That is John Boyd Jr., a farmer in Virginia, and president of the National Black Farmers Association. John, thank you again. Thank you very much for having me.
After 2 years, federal prosecutors are still struggling to catch up on billions of dollars of pandemic aid that ended up in the hands of smugglers. The government sent enhanced unemployment benefits and business relief to people who didn't exist, and sometimes to people who've been long dead. New York Times investigative journalist David Cracknell reported on this story and joins us now. Hi, David.
Hi.
So you wrote that the government gave unemployment benefits to the first victims, and how did that happen?
Well, what we learned in this process was that even before the pandemic, the country's unemployment system, which is funded by the Fed and funded by the states, but administered by the states, is rickety, easy to fool. States don't really talk to each other. And what happened during the pandemic was both that a lot more money got dumped into that system, so it became more lucrative to cheat it, and also that some of the safeguards that were normally in place were taken off. It became easier to qualify for unemployment benefits because they were trying to reach people who were working in the gig economy, Uber drivers and things like that. And the result was people put in applications. States didn't have the resources over time to check that they were legitimate, or even to check to make sure that the person they were about to grant benefits to wasn't already getting benefits in one or more other states.
One person who wrote benefits in, I think, 29 different states.
That's right.
There were fraudulent businesses as well, some of them comically fraudulent, that people even came up with businesses helping other people create fraudulent businesses. Can you explain how some of this fraud worked?
Yeah, this was really sound. So in the small business administration program called Economic Equity Disaster Loan. Basically, you could apply if you had a business that lost business because of COVID. You could apply to the government and say, well, here's the best loan, and it was repayment for a long period of time, low interest rate, and also, or at least when you apply for the loan, the government will also give you a grant of $10,000. If you didn't have that, you're supposed to pay over even less checking people that gave those grants. And so there are things
temporary block captain trying to fund Israel reportedly moving. Police say the block captain is in his 50s while chasing three men who were trying to steal catalytic converters on Mars. After undergoing surgery, he is now stable. Investigators suspect fled in a gray or silver four-door sedan which was last seen heading south on Avenue. Converters to get quick cash from scrap yards for vehicle owners, they can easily cost up to $1,000. Funding for hearing comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and the Indeed platform, designed as free and across. Indeed works to help businesses attract to interview and hire candidates in one place. More at Indeed.com/NPR.
It's here and now. The season began in June and won't end until late September, so this is a good time to ask, what are you listening to this summer? New albums from Beyonce, Becky Bell, Harry Styles, still tracks, but today we're listening to other artists making music, especially under the ever-expanding umbrella of jazz. Radio's Kiana Faircloth is our DJ today. She's host of the Artemis podcast. Hi there, Kiana.
Hi, Celeste.
So we might as well start off immediately with music because you brought a lot for us to listen to. This first tune is from Samara Joy. It's her take on a standard that's called Can't Get Out of This Mood. Can't get out of this mood. This is from Samara's forthcoming album called Linger a While on Verve Records. You know, in 1950, Samara's just 22 years old. Somebody to keep our eyes on?
Yes, certainly. Like you said, she is a young 22-year-old Bronx native, and this is her first album, but her debut on Verve. And like you mentioned, it really sounds like the Beatles. Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Nancy Wilson, Carmen McRae, Billie Holiday, all of them just reached out and touched her vocal cords and anointed her as next in line.
She has that warmth and depth that you associate with an older person.
Absolutely, and folks have taken notice. She's on the rise for sure.
We have saxophone Cook,